let's talk a little bit about Secret Santa, because like I got here Blu-rays a while ago and watched it like I don't know, a week and a half ago. Really like it, to be honest. Like it's independent, but like all the you can see all the work and the special effect and stuff like that. You know, I really like the movie. But where did the idea of Secret Santa came? You know, how did it start?
It started, so it started, the actual reasoning for making the movie. We had just formed Skeleton Crew. This was in 2015. And it was October. It was actually right after AFM, the American Film Market down in Santa Monica. And my partner, Brian Sexton, came to Deb and I, was like, look, everybody's out of horror. Like, nobody has a horror film. Like, the AFM was really like, there was a problem because there's usually a glut. And now suddenly there was none. And he said, we need a horror film and we need it like right now. I said, oh, okay. And we were looking for the first project to make out of Skeleton Crew. So I was like, what are you thinking? He says, anything we can make for no money.
Of course, you know.
All right. So I looked through our scripts, and you know, Deb and I have written over 80 movies. And so I'm looking through all the stuff we have, but I'm like, well, for no money at this time of year, that's horror, that's this low budget. And I was like, I just didn't feel like anything was going to fit the bill. So I had an idea in my mind about something I was kind of noodling. And I said, Brian, give me a couple of hours. Let me see what I can come up with. So I immediately call one of my closest friends, a woman named Pat Destro. And she's a student of mine. She's one of my actors. And so I said, look, Pat, I said, remember how you have that house up on Big Bear Lake that you guys rent? And she's like, yeah. I said, remember when you told me that I could use it to shoot there if I needed to? She's like, absolutely. I said, well, listen, I have a movie idea, but I need the house and I need you because I want you to be in the movie. She's like, fantastic. Yeah. I said, okay, but here's what I need. I need you to go and ask all of your neighbors around you if they'd be willing to keep up their Christmas decorations for 3 weeks after Christmas, just into the middle of January, if they could just leave all the decorations up.
And this was what, in like September?
No. This was on this October 31st.
Wow, the perfect date.
I'm making this request. Okay. Yeah. I said, we're going to shoot the first 2 weeks of January. So if you can give me that space till Martin Luther King Day and get all of your neighbors. She said, give me 10 minutes. I'll call you back. I said, great. She goes out, she checks, she finds out that everybody is willing to do it. And there were 2 houses on either side of her house on the lake that were rental houses. And I said, can you ask them if I can rent those houses from them?
So all the cast and crew can stay there.
Exactly.
Which is
exactly. Cool. So I have 3 houses right on the lake. That's where we're going to do it. So then I said, okay, I've got an idea for a movie. I start calling all of my actors that I wanted to be in this thing that I thought could be perfect for the movie. So I call everybody up. Everybody tells me that they can give me those 2 weeks. No problem. I said, I only need 2 weeks of your time. That's it. It's going to be 11 nights in a row. That's it. No breaks. Great. The one guy who says to me, oh, Adam, man, in the middle of there, I got to go because I'd have to do a thing, but I can come back. He said, will that work? And I said, sure, man, I'll just kill you first. Done. Now, mind you, there's no script. There's no nothing at this point. This is the day I'm coming up with the idea for the movie. So I call Brian back. I said, I have an idea. I have a location. I have my cast. We have where we're going to plant everybody for the 2 weeks, and we are set decorated for the whole thing. Everything is done decoration-wise. He's like, you're kidding me. I said, no, I got it. I said, leave me alone for a couple of weeks. Let me write the script.
So this was October 31st, and you shot
2015, and we shot. We started the first week of January 2016.
So and you had no script at that time.
No script. Nothing.
Wow, that's cool.
We started writing that night on October 31st, and we finished November 20th. So 20-day screenplay. We then did a reading of that script 2 days later. my cast, they all get the script. They're reading it. They're like, what is this movie? I'm like, just trust me. Just trust me, right? They do the first reading. People are crying from laughter. They're almost peeing themselves. And I did a day's worth of revisions where literally we changed almost nothing. And we had Brian come in for the second reading. And Brian was only going to produce the movie from LA. He was going to stay in LA, send us up there with a unit production manager, and shoot the movie in Big Bear. And Brian had dinner plans, late dinner plans, like at 10 o'clock at night. So he came to the reading at 7:30. We did the reading. He's crying from laughter. I see him on the phone at the end of the reading. He gets on the phone. He walks over to me. I said, "You got to go for your dinner." He says, "Oh, no. I just canceled my dinner. I'm coming to Big Bear. I'm making this movie with you. I'll be there for this." I was like, great. And yeah, we from the time we started writing the movie to the time we finished physical production of the film was 10 weeks.
It's incredible. And you film in Big Bear, which is in California, but
yes,
like in the movie, there's a lot of snow. Is there snow there usually, or just like?
Oh yeah, dude. No,
okay.
It's literally 2 hours outside of Los Angeles, up a mountain. It's great skiing. It's a fantastic spot. But again, it's like the place. You know when they say in LA you can go skiing and then go to the beach in the same day.
Yeah,
that's what they mean.
Okay.
So the other thing, so here's the crazy thing. We drive up to Big Bear. As we're driving up to Big Bear, they have the biggest blizzard they've had in 20 years. 6 feet of snow fall on us. And my entire cast and crew, all of us, we were snowed in. We couldn't leave, which was perfect. Like my cast had nowhere to go.
So the guy that you killed first, could he left, or
he could leave by that point because we were a week in? He could go. We had 1 week, but truly for the first 4 days of shooting, you couldn't leave the house. Everybody was just stuck, which couldn't have been like. I've never had a better time in my life shooting a movie. Like that was the most fun I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're stuck with people and you're just having fun. It's not like you're working,
No, man. And it was crazy because, we would shoot from 5 o'clock in the evening. We'd start setting up cameras, right? We'd start shooting and we would shoot until 6 a.m. Right?
Whoa. Okay.
And then everybody would go to bed. Well, here's the thing. Everybody would go get drunk and then go to bed, right? And then everybody would wake up at about 1:30 in the afternoon. Everybody would head over for breakfast. We had one of my a woman that I refer to as my sister, Melissa Corcoran, who's also in the movie. Melissa was the caterer for the whole film. And Melissa is like one of the best cooks in the history of the art of cooking. So much so every person in the thing, because it's LA, everybody's got dietary restrictions, right? I'm vegan, I'm gluten-free, I'm all this stuff. Every single person on the shoot was like, this is the best food we've ever had on a movie shoot.
And catering is so important.
It's the most important thing. It drives me crazy. Like the one area you can never skimp on when you're making a movie is feeding people. You have to feed people, and you have to feed them with great food.
Yeah, some people will just jump in and do the movie super low pay and everything, but they want the food.
That's right. Treat them with the respect that a good meal gives them. And they feel like, oh, you guys actually care about my well-being. So everybody was well fed. So by 2 o'clock, everybody is having breakfast. And we would all sit around this long table, right, to have breakfast together. And at that meal, the whole table, we would just start rehearsing the day's work.
Oh.
So everybody's like just eating and laughing and doing this. And so by the time we get to set at 5:30, they're ready to go. Like I never waited for an actor. It never happened. And
first of all, they're stuck there, so they
right. That's what I'm saying. Like we were so, but again, it was like this like crazy theater troupe experience. Like it's the way that I used to love doing theater, and now I'm doing film this way, where it's like all these people who trust each other, who totally know the material, who are able to bounce it back. You know, everybody always talks about Marlon Brando's performance in Streetcar Named Desire, and like, oh my God, it was so. I'm like, hey, by the way, he had 2,000 performances of that show on Broadway before he did the movie. He was kind of good at it by that point. Like, there's a whole thing about rehearsing and really knowing what you're doing. And even though we had a very short, you know, pre-production period, and then a shorter production period, everybody was so all in. Michael Rady, for example, the guy who plays the boyfriend, Ty, he was my next door neighbor. And he was part of my theater company. He was one of my actors. And so he's right across the way from me. And the night that I came up with this idea, I walked over and said, hey, Michael, listen, I got a part for you in a new movie he's writing. He said to me, you're kidding me. I said, no, man. So I just want to know if you'd be interested in doing that. He goes, interested? I'm in. I said, well, do you want to know the character? He goes, you're making a horror movie and you want me in it? I don't care. I'm in. Done. So that was the way. And Michael, you know, Michael is the king of the Hallmark and Lifetime movies.
That's what I was about to say. You know, I went to see, you know, his Internet Movie Database, you know, just to see, you know, who he was exactly. I was like, this guy playing a bunch of Hallmark movies. Like, my wife is watching not horror movies, Hallmark movies since like early November. Like, it's like only that playing at my place. And I was like, I saw that guy before in those kind of movies, and seeing him like just being in Secret Santa is amazing.
Yeah. So that was sort of the production impetus behind it. The reason where the movie came from for me is I have a very complicated relationship with Christmas. My parents were married on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
Now, my parents are Jews. So getting married on Christmas Eve, it meant the temple was cheap for the night because nobody's going to temple on Christmas Eve. The whole world was decorated in twinkly lights and this sort of beautiful, magical thing. And it's my parents, one of their favorite times of the year. So for my mother, it was like the whole world was celebrating her getting married, right? So it's this magical thing. And then every year, as Jews, we would have the world's biggest Christmas party, because my parents would have their anniversary party on the 24th. But because a lot of their friends weren't Jewish, it was a Christmas party. So we had a spectacular tree every year. Our everything was decorated. We were like the Griswolds before the Griswolds existed. So just a ton of celebration of Christmas, right? Well, my brother and I would, we'd get presents for Hanukkah, but then we get our really cool present on Christmas. We get pencils and T-shirts and socks and stuff on Hanukkah. On Christmas, you'd get like the toy, right? I got my Millennium Falcon on Christmas, So we loved Christmas. Well, my parents split up when I was 6, but they kept having the party
together.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So that's like the best of the two worlds,
Right. So now all these people would still assemble for this like Christmas party, but it was still the anniversary of my parents' wedding, which was now null and void. And so it was a lot of like, oh, Merry Christmas. Where's my damn alimony? Like it was that. And so I was like, everybody's so full of shit. And I was 6 years old thinking that, like, what is this? So for me, my whole life went this way. And so Christmas was always one of those things that, and I have a real, I hate hypocrites. Like I really hate hypocrisy. It's one of those things that really burns me up, man.
One of the terrible things, yeah.
Right? So for me, all of these people being incredibly hypocritical and all of them behaving in a way that feels completely disingenuous, it gets me nuts. So I was this kid who was always like, why can't anybody be honest with each other? What is wrong with all of you? And that's where Secret Santa came from. Like, what happens if everybody would be honest And then what happens if not only you're being honest, but you not only said what you wanted to say, but did what you wanted to do.
Yeah. Did your parents saw the movie? What did they thought?
My parents did see the movie. It's very funny. My father, look, and they are well represented in the movie. That's for sure. I mean, there's a craziness in that my wife, in many regards, plays a character akin to my mother in the movie. Is pretty outrageous. I will say this: my Uncle Ned, who I'm sure you know, my Uncle Ned. Did you ever see The Burning?
Yes.
Okay, so the camper Eddie, who gets the shears in the throat on the raft.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my Uncle Ned.
Okay.
Yes, my family, there's a bunch of like horror royalty. My other uncle is a guy named Joe Ellison, and he wrote and directed and produced Don't Go in the House. The horror classic. So yeah, there's a lot of horror royalty. Anyway, so my Uncle Ned saw the film. He saw it before my mother. And he called me. I still have the message because it's such a beautiful message. Him, his wife, and his son had all watched the movie together. It's a 3-minute message of the two of them laughing so hard they're sobbing with laughter, and they can't finish any sentence completely as they're saying how much they love the movie and how funny it is. Well, then my uncle calls my mother and he's like, "Hey, Susie, have you seen Secret Santa yet?" She goes, "No, I hear it's fantastic." He goes, "Yeah, no, it's great. It's a great movie. You might want to like prepare yourself because there's a lot of things. It might be us. It might have some stuff there that's us." Wow. Yeah. So yes, no, my parents have seen it. My mother, for my mother, it's the film that she thinks is the best thing I've ever made. She's actually
oh, well, that's cool.
And she is not a fan of a lot of my other work. Like, she went to go see Texas Chainsaw, was like, "It's not for me. This movie is not for me, honey." So yeah, she's not a giant fan.
Sometimes that's the thing, you need, like, people need to understand if the movie that they're watching is made for them or not. Like saying, right, "Oh, this movie is a piece of shit," but maybe it's not made for you.
Absolutely.
There's a huge difference. When I remember seeing Texas 3D in the theater, and I remember I was with one of my friends, and it was in 3D. And at some point, when you're sitting down and you see that you have, like, something on your shirt,
Yeah.
I was just like that. And at some point I saw, and when I turned back, it was the scene where Leatherface is throwing the chainsaw, and I dodge. And my friend was like, "Did you really like move?" I was like, "Just shut up, please." It was one of these moments. You talk a little bit about a lot about your cast. Drew Lynch. You wrote the part for him, so you knew him before. And he's one of your students too, or
yes, Drew was a student of mine since he was 18 years old. I knew Drew before he had the stutter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. When he first got to me, he had no stutter, and then he had the accident that caused the stutter. And no, Drew was my student for almost 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. During America's Got Talent and all of that, I was his teacher.
Yeah, so you kind of wrote the part saying, it's going to be amazing if you're in it, and with all the stutter and everything, it's going to feel okay. So at first, when I was watching the movie, I was wondering, is it like an actor who pretend to be, to have the disabilities or not? And when I read about it and I saw American Got Talent, that I never saw him before, I was like, oh wow, this is like great, like to be. To accept to do that kind of role and stuff. So it's really cool.
Look, the part of the trick with the movie, look, and also what I teach when I'm working with actors, you have to accept who you are. That's it. Like, I love this idea that everybody's going to be Daniel Day-Lewis. There are no Daniel Day-Lewises. This idea that there are chameleons is just a big lie.
Mm-hmm.
An actor is the person they are, and they bring of them what of themselves they can to each character to fill that character out. But the truth is, you don't go to see a Leonardo DiCaprio movie because you want to see him do his best Jared Leto impression. You want to see Leonardo DiCaprio. That's what we go for. You go to see Tom Cruise be Tom Cruise, right? That's and yes, there are exceptions to that rule. Meryl Streep pours herself so completely into a character that you lose the person, but it's you know, becomes this other person. But for the most part, actors are who they are. De Niro, Pacino, the list goes on and on. Jessica Lange is always sort of Jessica Lange. That's what we want to see. So I try to get my students to embrace this concept of I want you to be the brand. You're the brand, right? And so, you know, let's say like Ryan Lee Seaton, who plays the evil sister Penny. When I came to her, you know, Ryan is a woman of size. And I was like, look, Ryan, if you want to do this role, great. I'm writing it for you. Here's the problem. I'm going to say some stuff that's evil, that's horrible.
Yeah.
About things that are not personality traits, things about yourself, about your body, about you. You have to be okay with that as an artist. If you're not, then don't do this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And she was like, Adam, I trust you completely. No problem. And again, it's why I love her so much, where I'm like, see, this is the thing. If I'm going to say something against, you know, body shaming, I have to actually body shame in the story. I have to give the example of what it is that I think is disgusting. So it's funny when the movie premiered at Fright Fest in Glasgow, which was one of the first festivals it was at. It was amazing. And Fright Fest, we did Fright Fest Glasgow and London, which almost no films ever do both. And then Fright Fest picked the film up for British distribution. It was the first movie it was the first movie they'd ever picked up to distribute, which is amazing, right? And so anyway, when we were in Glasgow, the audience loved it. Like we had an incredible screening in Glasgow, right? Standing ovation, the whole bit. And right after the screening, there were all these tweets. There was a tweet storm coming out of the thing of people giving it wonderful reviews, which was, you know, really magnificent. And I'm at a restaurant with the festival director, right? And one of the tweets comes out, and the tweet is homophobic, anti-Semitic, bigoted, racist, you know, all this thing. And it says, really, Fright Fest, this is the best you can do? And the festival director, who was the guy who was buying the film to distribute the movie, he turned to me, he said, Adam, that needs to be our poster. And I was like, wow. You're 100% right, Alan. You're right. Because I'm like, this person obviously does not get that this movie is against all of those things. That's exactly the point of the movie.
It's often the point, you know, and it's like, we're not gonna start talking about all this, but it's just like it's killing me. Like I don't know, what did I saw lately that Michael Myers was homophobic because he's killing a gay couple or something. I didn't see Halloween Kills yet, but I was like, really? Holy cow,
not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Now, I will say this. The treatment of the gay characters in the movie, that you could take issue with. I don't mean they're getting killed. Michael Myers hates all people. He wants to murder everybody. Exactly. But the way the characters are portrayed in the movie, that you could take issue with. That'd be fine. I get it. Because you'll see. But no, look, you know, and I mean, speaking of gay characters, you know, Drew Lynch has that spectacular, or I think it's spectacular monologue in the middle of the movie.
Yes.
Right?
It's really funny.
What's incredible, we screened that movie. We were in over 25 festivals, okay? And all really amazing festivals. We opened the film. The first time the movie ever got shown was at Sitges in Spain, which is, you know, I mean, it's, you know, we started with gold. And in every country, no matter what language the movie was being projected in, every single time he did that monologue, the entire audience would applaud. He got an applause break every time. And I'm like, okay, I can't name 5 movies I've seen in my life where there's an applause break in the middle of a movie. I was like, that's the most gratifying. And again, if people don't know where I stand, that's where I stand. Like, that's the movie. That's what I'm doing.
Well, it's one of the fun part of it, you know, like all those different opinion and stuff in the movie, like telling the truth and everything. You said that you know, you got screened in over like 25 film festival and stuff like that, but like in the US, like you decide kind of own the distribution, and you guys are selling by yourself with Skeleton. By the way, Skeleton Crew, where's this name is coming from? Which is kind of cool. I like the name, you know.
Thank you. Skeleton Crew came out of a couple things. When I'm sure you've seen the movie Metropolis.
Of course.
Okay. So I saw Metropolis when I was probably about 7. And it was probably about 2:00 in the morning, and it was on PBS, on public broadcasting. And my dad, we lived in a loft at the time in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And it was a huge, like, cave of a loft. It was extraordinary, right? Like one of those like New York places that you're like, nobody really lives in these things. We lived in it. He only had one bed. He had this large futon, this king size futon. So my brother and I would sleep on either side of him when we would come to visit him on the weekends, right? So it was the 3 of us just snuggled up in the bed. So, however, they fell asleep. I'm still watching television, and Metropolis comes on, and there's the section with the Grim Reaper when he comes swinging the side across the screen. This scared me to my core. Okay. This is like one of those images that I will never lose from my brain. Right. And then years later, my dad had this art book of like these famous, brilliant pieces of art. And there was one of a room full of skeletons, right? Like an attic full of skeletons. And it's a terrifying piece. And I couldn't look at it. And it was all because of that image that I had when I was a little kid. So in my teen years, because I was very good at kind of putting together, I had 2 theater companies as a teenager, and I directed, choreographed, produced, or was in over 80 plays when I was a kid. I had an incredibly prolific theater life.
So much you were an actor before.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm in Jason Goes to Hell. That's one of the reasons that I'm in there. Yeah.
Are you? In Secret, I was wondering. I had one question. In Secret Santa, is it you? Is it your hand that putting the keys in the jar?
Yes, it is.
I was like, I'm pretty sure that's his hand. Wow.
By the way, you know what's really interesting about that? It's a different hand. Each time you see someone grab keys, it's a different hand. And that's actually a tribute to William Friedkin's movie Cruising.
Okay. Never saw it.
Because, oh my God. Oh, dude. Oh, you got to see Cruising.
Okay.
You got to see Cruising. It's my second favorite of his films. I mean, The Exorcist is my all-time favorite. But honestly, I like it more than French Connection. Cruising's incredible, and it's terrifying. Really scary movie.
Okay.
Yeah. But the killer in that movie, every time the killer appears in that movie, it's a different actor playing the killer.
Okay. Nice.
So it was my tribute to Friedkin. That's amazing. Well done. Well done with the hand spotting. That's amazing.
I don't know, when I said, I was like, I don't know why, but this looks like Adam's hand.
I'm
gonna ask him the question.
That is me. That is beautiful, man. Well done. You're the first person ever to get that.
Nice.
So I had done all this theater, and but I was very good at putting a show together with almost nobody, like a tiny group of people, and that followed me in my filmmaking. So I always thought this thing about skeletons was like a thing for me, and then I was like, I do things with the Skeleton Crew. And the concept of having this tiny group of people that can all do so many things well, all working together, I was like, yeah, we're Skeleton Crew. By the way, I came up with the name when I was 15 years old.
it's always the best, when it's like old thing and you're like, at some point I'm gonna do this.
Yep.
This is bringing me to Bob Kurtzman, who
Yeah.
did the B cam on the shoot, like the entire shoot. Like he didn't have to do that. Like he was like there as a special effect, but he just decided to run the camera, which is super cool.
Well, what happened was I called him up and I said, "Listen, Bob," I said, "I've got a movie that I want you to do the effects on. I have no money." And he was like, "Yeah." I said, "No, you're not getting it. I have zero money. I have zero money. But I will bring you on as an executive producer of the movie." And he was like, "All right, send me the script." For God's sake. So I sent it to him and he read it in 90 minutes, called me literally 90 minutes later, called me and was like, "I'm in. Like, I'm all in. I'm 100% in." I was like, "Oh, Bob, I love you so much." And he's like, I said, "Hey, I got one other thought," because Bob not only did the effects on Jason Goes to Hell, but he was my second year director on Jason Goes to Hell.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. Cool. Because I was like, because again, I was 23 years old when I did Jason Goes to Hell. And I was like, I'm not so arrogant that I think I know how to shoot special effects properly. I was like, I'm not that guy. Yeah. So I'm like, Bob, I need you to help me to show me how to shoot these effects the right way. I said, and that's outside of a makeup artist's purview. I'm asking you to help me with the direction of these moments.
Oh, nice.
And so he was the second unit director of the film. And the thing is, he's also a director in his own right.
Yes.
So and he's also a tech geek like I am, and like my partner Brian is a big tech geek. Deborah is the only one in Skeleton Crew who could care less about anything to do with the camera. And so I said to Bob, I said, "Listen," I said, "it's going to be really tight. Would you have any interest in shooting V camera?" And he actually said to me at that point, he says, "Dude, man, now I feel like I should be paying you." He was so excited. I have never seen a person more happy to have a camera in their hands. And he did beautiful work. Did a fantastic job on this movie.
It's kind of, I was watching the documentary. I was like, oh, like, instead of being a special effect guy sitting down and just waiting for effects, it's just like, have fun. And I'm pretty sure that like he was just like there with his camera and at the end of the day, like when you start editing the movie, you were discovering maybe sometime like stuff that he shot, and you were like, "Oh, that's great! I'm gonna take
absolutely
that cut,
Yep, yep. The other thing is, with Bob and I have been. He's one of my best friends of the last 29 years. Jesus, that's terrifying. We had just finished. I think we were day 6. We were finished up day 6, and the shoot was going incredibly well. And we were all going to bed. The sun was rising, and we were all heading off to our beds. And Bob says, "Hey, Adam," we were the only 2 people left in the room. And I was like, "Yeah, Bob, what's up?" He goes, I just wanted to say thank you." And I'm like, "Dude,
thank you.
I'm thanking you, man. Like, no, you don't have to give me." He goes, No, not for this. "I just want to thank you for reminding me of why I wanted to be a filmmaker in the first place. It's like, this is actual movie making. No bullshit, no egos. This is what it's supposed to be." And he walks over and he hugs me. And Bob is not a big hugger. Okay. And I pull back from the guy and he's got tears in his eyes. I was like, "Oh man, like now this is like the best day ever. Like, this is amazing, dude." So yeah, it was that kind of shoot.
One last question.
Yeah.
I have to ask. Well, two last thing actually.
Please.
You kind of put a Jason Goes to Hell Easter egg in Secret Santa with the fake Ed,
Yes, I sure did.
That's cool.
Well, it's funny because when I went to Michael Rady, who played that character, who has the problem with his head, I said to Michael, even before I wrote the script, every actor always asks, "How do I die?" Everybody always asks that.
Of course,
right? You do a horror movie, they just want to know how they die. And I said, well, he says, Michael, I'm not sure how I'm killing anybody yet, except you. I know how I'm killing you. Because Michael Rady looks a lot like my brother Kip back when Kip did Jason Goes to Hell. So, and I've had that head sitting in my garage for 25 years at that point. And I was like, well, I got a new use for it. So when I brought that head to set, Bob Kurtzman laughed so loud you could hear him back in Los Angeles.
Because he did the head like
he made the original head.
Exactly.
And suddenly he's holding a piece of it. He's like, you have kept this in perfect condition. I'm like, yeah, no kidding, man.
So finally, like the last question I have to ask.
Yeah.
What's the status on Heart of Darkness?
Oh, it's great, actually. I just made an announcement a couple of days ago that we got Michelle Clooney in the doc, because look, this is actually kind of an amazing thing. The number of people who ask me this question, like I'm running behind schedule, and I'm like, have you noticed there's a pandemic going on? Have y'all seen that? And I got to go to people's homes and photograph them in their houses with a crew of people. Has everybody lost their minds? So the good news is, well, at least the good news was, COVID had let up a little bit, so we raced out to go grab some more interviews. We got a bunch of more interviews, and interviews that we didn't think we were going to get. So that was kind of great. Over the time of COVID, I was actually able to reconnect with people and get them to sign on.
Yeah.
So we just did an interview with Michelle Clooney, who is the girl who plays Debbie, the girl who gets split up the middle in the tent.
Yeah.
It's the first interview,
which is one of the best kill ever.
Thank you.
Ever. First of all, as a young boy, she's super hot.
Beautiful.
But
beautiful.
She's beautiful. But the kill is one of my best ever. It's incredible. And this is where you can see the difference with a rated and unrated movie.
Oh, you bet.
Because it totally changed. Totally.
It's a complete. So the kill's not even in the damn movie. So we did that. The other thing is that we just had over this last summer, the American Cinematheque, which is a rather extraordinary kind of highfalutin film organization. They honored Jason Goes to Hell. They made us one of their Friday night frights. And
when we record the prank for Martin.
Yes.
You were. It was. I think you were going there like the night after or something like that.
Yeah. And it wasn't just sold out. There was a line around the block that could not get into the theater. It was an amazing event, right? And they showed a 35 millimeter print. They showed an original print of the movie. It was amazing. So we shot that whole evening, like that whole thing for the doc. So we've got that covered. And I'll tell you this before I've even announced it online. It's really true. We just did an interview with Allison Smith, who plays Vicky. It's the first time she's ever spoken about the film.
Really?
Very first time.
Why?
She just doesn't do interviews. It's not something she's interested in. And so she's never talked about it. She had to go back and rewatch the movie. She's like, oh my God, I got to remember that movie. And again, like for me, she's one of my favorite cast members of that movie. She's one of the best people in that film. I love her. So we reconnected because of the pandemic, and I got her in the movie. I've got 5 more interviews to get, and then we're wrapped, and it goes to editing, and we start doing post-production on the film.
Nice.
So yeah, so I would expect the movie to be released sometime late next year. That's what we're looking at. And there's already a couple of festivals that want it to premiere there, so that's exciting. So we're not. I can't say who yet, but it's exciting. And look, the issue with the movie, we have shot over 100 hours of footage. So now it's going to be about like, how do you pick and choose what's going to be in this doc?
I know the drill. I did the Evil Dead documentary. About the fans called Hell to the Deadites, and we had so many rush and so many things. And when I did my first documentary, Under the Scares, with Bob Kurtzman in it, we start after shooting the sequel, and we just shot interviews, and then we start doing Hell to the Deadites. So like the sequel of Under the Scare kind of became like the B movie for a while. So when we were traveling for the Deadites documentary, we were just doing interviews, and I think I have like 45 different or 50 different interviews, and I just like, I need to cut all this. I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna be so
nightmarish. It's nightmarish. The good news,
it's fun. It's fun.
The good news is the editor on the doc is this is a crazy thing. When I was 15, this guy was one of my closest friends. He was an original member of Skeleton Crew back when I was a kid. And he is now a 9-time nominated Emmy editor of reality programming. He cut every single episode of Fear Factor back in the day. He now has cut almost all of The Amazing Race.
Okay.
So this guy is legit. And by the way, he's also like a genius novelist. He's written like 40 books alongside of doing this. I'm like, dude, and he has 2 daughters. I'm like, where do you find the time, bro? Like, and it's funny coming from me, where do you find the time? Because like, I never stop. And I'm like, what, do you have like a room full of gremlins that do this work for you? So this guy, Eric Bietner, who is just one of the best guys I've ever known.
He's writing during renders, while he's rendering a scene.
Exactly. So no, he's editing for us. And it's the first time as adults that he and I get to work together. And now he's writing we're doing an anthology film. Skeleton Crew is doing an anthology film.
Oh, nice. I love this.
And he's writing one of the episodes. So it's pretty cool. Like, again, just getting to bring my family, and it's funny because, you mentioned the documentary on the Secret Santa disc. The thing about that disc, and why I always tell people, like, yeah, you can stream it, that's fine. But the disc is important because the movie is such an FU to families. This idea of like who you're born to is who you should stay with your whole life, which I think is such BS, where the documentary is this totally pro-family film, but about the family of people you carry with you your life, the people that you choose to be your family.
Yep.
And, that's kind of what my filmmaking career has been. It's like this like amazing island of misfit toys that all get to make cool stuff together. So, yeah.
Perfect last sentence to finish this interview. It's amazing.